At one stage, the industry players left their conscience behind and they kept on going, and their main focus was just to make money and just deliver projects, make money, deliver projects.
My dear friend, Michael Dakhoul, welcome to the Moxham Mindset. Thank you so much for your time today, mate. I know you're a very busy man. Very much looking forward to this interview. We've known each other for over 20 years now. Yeah. And many of the same clients, and spend a lot of time in the development industry, both of us, and your role and your business and the role of your business in the QS space and development management and all of the things you do, such a big part of the correct management of the development industry. Yeah. So we're going to talk about that today. Also going to talk about a very topical subject of the new era of the construction industry. Absolutely. And the changes that have come and are coming into effect with the Building Commissioner, of which you are a formal advisor to the Building Commissioner. So yes. It's some exciting things to talk about. So thanks again for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No problem.
A beautiful day outside.
It is. It is. So I thought first, for maybe the younger listeners out there and people that aren't sort of too familiar with the development industry, can you tell us a bit about your company, and also what is the role of AQS in the industry that we're in, and why it is so important to get it right?
Absolutely. Construction Consultants Group is a project management and quantity surveying company. We have a presence in Western Australia, New South Wales and Victoria and Canberra. As the title says, we are project managers and quantity surveyors. So yes. A quantity surveyor is somebody who dissects every situation or every project.
Yes.
And makes sure that there's a budget. The importance of the QS very early in the piece is to make sure that whatever is in the mind of the developer and the architect is doable financially. Mm-hmm. So when the architect is designing a certain building, it starts with a box. Mm-hmm. A QS can put a budget on a box, on a few sketches. And that budget goes into what we call the feasibility, to make sure that to understand the return of the project at the end, when it's complete. Mm-hmm. So the budget is so essential, and then that budget can follow through with the development of the design until submission for a development approval or a DA. And then the same budget is also used to get approval for loans and the rest of it. Mm-hmm. So this is the main aim of a QS. In traditional terms, the QS can also manage the project, and I always say the best project manager is a quantity surveyor, because a QS will dissect the building, will know every aspect of the building, and will understand what is the role of every element of the building, and will be able to do value engineering as you're going.
Mm-hmm. Describe, so value engineering, I love that term.
Yes.
So value engineering, so making, is that, how do you describe value engineering?
More efficient and more budget efficient.
Yes.
Because sometimes you design and you finish the building and you have constraints and requirements from other authorities like councils and the rest of it. And then eventually that budget may be in a bit of strained as such.
Yes.
So you move to the next step. The next logical step is to look at all the elements that a building is involved, and look at possibilities of replacing elements or replacing little design elements.
Yes.
To make sure that building fits back again towards the original intended feasibility. So it is it's an important exercise that many people sort of overlook, because the main aim generally in our industry is to just put as many units or as many commercial space or as possible without taking into account the budget and the effect of the budget.
Such an important part of having a man like yourself and your company with so much experience to be able to look at the plans and say, look, that term value engineering, like fix that, change that.
Yeah.
It's, not only from a cost saving, but also from a time saving and overall better result. That's that's the value of experience, isn't it?
That's the traditional role of the QS encompasses all this. So it's from zero, from the idea to completion.
Yes.
Generally, our role as a quantity surveyor with the financiers is a little bit different. So in a way, we are the eyes and ears of the financier. So your clients will
I heard you using the word, sorry to interrupt, superintendent. So is that previously when you were on the phone? So is that the superintendent, in inverted commas, that's the role if you're engaged by a financier to manage a project?
No, when the financier engages the QS to manage the project, it's basically just to oversee the time and budget constraints and do limited amounts of visits and be the eyes and ears of the financier.
Yeah.
The role of the superintendent is a contractual role between a developer and a builder. And the superintendent is generally an independent entity that sits in the middle and acts equally with fairness to both parties.
Yes.
And this is more a contractual role that carries through from the beginning. And as I always say, QS or project manager initially, when the contract is signed, that role becomes the superintendent of the project. And then it carries and assists both parties to finish the job together.
Yes.
I call it generally the cushion because it's a role of a person right in the middle of a relationship between two, if you like, even though the aim is the same, it can become a bit of a confronting role between the developer and the builder.
Similar to an agent in some cases, actually. It's a relationship type role of putting the pieces together and making sure it all sort of works well.
Absolutely. Within the umbrella of the contract.
Yes.
So the basis of everything is what's written, what's agreed to.
Yes.
And so often contracts take a long time to agree, to negotiate, and to discuss, and then to sign.
Yep.
And a lot of people, when they start construction, they forget about this document.
Yep.
That document is the Bible for this project.
Yep. So you'll be engaged by, obviously, the financiers who are obviously lending money to the builder or the developer.
Correct.
And the financiers are like, Michael, I want you to make sure that this is not running over budget and everything's run swimmingly. You could be, I suppose maybe I'll let you describe, tell us the different ways that you could be engaged in terms of, from a developer, from a builder, as you mentioned, from a financier, how they're...
The main role, as it's understood, of a QS in the Australian building industry is to represent the bank.
Represent the bank, okay.
But the traditional and most important role is to be the right hand, to be sitting at the right hand of the developer from day one.
Yes.
When feasibility is being created, and then when the architect is doing sketches, and then when these sketches are being advanced.
Yes.
And then taking the role of the project manager. So looking after everybody, coordinating all the consultants, all the designs, making sure everything fits together.
Yes.
Organizing inter-consultancy meetings to make sure that the design is being programmed. Yes. Program is alone the most important aspect of what a PM/QS can do.
Yeah.
Making sure that everybody sees the end.
Yeah.
You're not floating around trying to create construction documentation.
Yeah.
You have a goal that is set, and that goal is something that you are focused on, and making sure that that goal is achieved.
Yeah.
So there's so much involved in dealing with authorities, dealing with councils, dealing with private certifiers.
Yes.
And again, being the cushion again between the developer and all these consultants, because each one will be pushing for a different outcome or different situation. So you're trying to coordinate all these people and make them work together. So it's like a coach in a team early in the piece. And then later on, you're the administrator of that document that these people have signed and they want to deliver a project.
And I've seen you in full flight over the years, and I think it's and this is leading into the question I'm going to ask in terms of the types of skills that makes a good QS and for young people into the industry. But what I've seen with yourself, and as you touched on earlier, you're very much a relationship man, and you're very good at being the cushion, as you mentioned it before, and getting the right outcomes between parties, contractually that might not be agreeing. From an outsider's point of view, I see your role being at the head of the company being, very much a relationship type role. What are the skills that you are looking for? What are the qualifications that somebody that wants to be a QS, what do they need to do at uni?
Yes.
And what do they need to enjoy? Like when you're interviewing someone, what sort of ticks the boxes for you looking for someone that wants to get into your industry?
As a general term, we look at people who are looking for answers. I call them sponges. I call them young people who just want to learn.
Yeah.
But in specific terms, a quantity surveyor requires the skills of being pedantically inquisitive and focused on details.
Yeah.
That's a very important role. It's like an architectural firm that has a set of people that do details. They detail the steps between the balcony and the living room. They detail the difference, the detail between two different building material on the facade or internally. The QS picks up all this, and the QS has to assess it and measure it and look at not only measuring the quantity, look at what affects the quantity, like waste, and then look at the costs and the various costs involved. And to create a cost, you need to build up what is involved in a cost. So you have material, you have labor, you have plant.
Yeah.
So often the QS is a good QS is somebody who's very focused on detail and likes the industry and likes to deal with the industry and likes to understand it more and more and likes to dissect every building and come up with this is the result.
Yes.
And these are thousands of pages of what's involved in this building.
Yeah, amazing. Is it the property economics degree? Is it a specific education that you look for?
Yeah, construction economics and there's a few other names for the degrees, but I can't keep track of them. But generally, we do a lot of work with Western Sydney University on an external advisory basis, and it's a very good uni for our industry, either for construction management or for quantity surveying.
Awesome. And what's the industry like for new people coming through into the industry? How is the market for sort of employing young people and people into the QS industry?
Is demanding more and more skills.
Yeah, awesome.
We're always looking for good QSs, good PMs.
Yeah.
A project manager can be, the best project manager in my opinion is a QS, but can be a good architect, could be an engineer. Yeah. In our family of project managers, we have all types of PMs, and the mix of all of them is amazing because you have project managers who studied project management. We had architects that became project. We had obviously quantity surveyors and the rest of it. So it's a beautiful mix of people, and you can see the different aspects of focus mixed together to come up with. And by the way we run our PM business or project management is we run every job with a team of people. We never assign one person per job. We always assign a team of people. For every project. So I have a team of of 2 or 3 project managers that run a job individually. So awesome. There's always continuity, and there's always more than one, if you like, pair of eyes, as you'd say.
That's great. Always a good. We're the same in the agency space. I like having you have a couple of agents on each, and then everyone gets serviced quickly and professionally, and no one has to wait. And I agree with you there. We're coming to the end of part 1, and we're going to start off part 2 talking about the very interesting topic in the industry at the moment is, the result of the changes that are being brought in by the Building Commissioner. Absolutely. And I know you're a man very close to that space. Absolutely. So I look forward to chatting with you in a couple of minutes.
Done.
Welcome back. Part 2.
Thank you. Part 2.
Part 2. We're back. Before I get into the interesting topic of the construction industry in general and you know, the pros and cons of the new era, let's call it, with the Building Commissioner. I just wanted to ask, and for you to touch on for the listeners, this program is about interviewing, you know, business owners and entrepreneurs, and you are certainly both of those, and very successful business for 15 years now, in the industry for 35 years. Your business is in most states in Australia. What are a couple of tips for other entrepreneurs and business owners listening? What's a couple of the secrets of your success in growing and maintaining a successful business, Michael?
It's very simple as far as I'm concerned. You're as good as your family, and we call it family, which is the people that work with us, and the people that we work with. You have to look after them and continue their education and make sure they feel part of a family, so they can perform better. And I'll give you one example. I mean, it's an honor for me to get a call from an old friend who is entrusting his son or his daughter to come and work for me. And that's amazing. We have been very blessed in that while we were growing the family in New South Wales and interstate.
Yes.
The other very important part is integrity. It's so important. Everything starts from the part of respecting yourself and respecting others, and then that creates integrity in the mix of people that you're working with, and respect. So you wake up in the morning and you're very, very happy to go and see these people that are basically representing you every day. They're representing you on job sites. They're representing you with clients. They're sending emails representing the company. And we're very, very proud of the team that we have. And we've had our growth, not physical growth, our mental and logical and intellectual growth has a huge reason behind it. Bruce Bowes has been one of our directors for the last 6-7 years. He's been an amazing person, for example, teaching the great qualities that may not be available these days, which is ethics, work ethics, and how to think, how to coordinate the thoughts, the work, how to extend your thoughts to other people, how to be patient with clients. Dr. Pat O'Donnell is arguably the best QS in Australia. He's part of the family, and he's been instrumental on moving his teachings to all the younger generation. So the third item is basically just have some idols or have some legends in our industry as part of the education program for the younger generation.
Yes.
So these are the three sort of general aspects of how we look at things.
That's beautiful, and it certainly comes out in everyone that works for you and your work, and it's so important, isn't it? People need to know, people need to grow. Like we're like plants, if we're not growing, we're dying, and I think that role as an employer is really just to help people grow. And I think if you can do that well and just continually feed their enthusiasm, it's a winning ticket, isn't it?
Absolutely. There's no others.
That's it. So the construction industry.
Yes.
2022. Really excited to chat to you about this, given your formal role as an advisor to the Building Commissioner. Massive changes in the industry over the last couple of years, following Opal and Mascot towers. There's a lot of talk in the industry and positives and negatives, and I talk to a lot of people, as you do, really interested in your view on the importance of these new procedures that are being put into place for the industry in general.
I was talking to an old friend and developer, and he said something very, very important. And I don't think it's a brush across the whole industry, but he said at one stage the industry players left their conscience behind, and they kept on going, and their main focus was just to make money and just deliver projects, make money, deliver projects. Maybe it's not that simple, but we got to a stage where everything changed, and the focus of our industry of being honorable in what we do has changed a little bit. And there's a lot of players that forgot that there are rules to the industry. So I think the advent of the Building Commissioner, the Building Commissioner's office, and the new sets of regulations that we're seeing in the last few years I think it's just a reminder, because I don't think it's anything new. let's put it in simple terms. If you're a builder or developer and you are doing the right thing, there's nothing. No, there's no change at all. You'll be, doing exactly the same as you was doing 20 years ago.
Yep.
So, so that's the funny bit.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, if you're if one of the players that has gone a little bit away from the proper procedures, I think all the very hard work of the building commissioner and his office is just there to remind everybody that no, we got to go back and do the right thing. Now, you mentioned the two main instigators, but I think there's many, many more. The consumers are not dumb. Consumers are very smart. And you would know. I mean, you deal with them every day. They understand building, they understand methodology, they understand defects, they know about everything. Social media now makes sure that a kid that's a 5-year-old knows everything about everything. So there's nobody's eyes are closed anymore. And the aim of these changes is to bring back, in David's terms, bring back our clients, bring back our industry's client.
Yep.
Now, what's the effect? Again, if you're doing the right thing, the effect is nothing.
Yes, it's probably a positive effect for you if you're doing the right thing,
because
it's there's a bit of a, you can see, and I can see, and I'm sure you can too, that there seems to be a bit of a divide being created, and I imagine the reason for it. And the better builders are going to continue to get the work and probably get more work and are going to get better, and it's sort of going to weed out the groups that
Correct.
that was, I suppose, that it was intended for.
Correct. Unless you get better, unless you aim to get better.
Yes.
There has been, in the last 6 months, our industry has been affected by material increases. There's a
Yes.
there's a
I was
huge
going to ask
turmoil.
you about that.
Yeah, there's
Yes.
a huge turmoil happening now. It's got nothing to do
Yes.
with the new regulations. I think
Right.
the main aim of the new regulations, if you want to simplify it to one, but what's the most important? The most important is to make sure that everything is designed day one to perfection.
Yes.
Before you go to site.
And that's where the importance of your industry and your business comes into place, isn't it?
Yes. You see, yes, we're ours and anybody similar to ours, any other business that does project management, quantity surveying. So what we're saying is, before you go to war, just prepare. Before you start, before you put the fence, before you start, prepare everything. Make sure all the construction certificate is just a mini step. It means nothing. It doesn't mean you can go and construct. You need to do construction documentation like we used to do in the industry 20 years ago.
Right.
20 years ago, nobody would start construction. The builder will. Builders are there to just build, not think, not detail, not come up with solutions. They're just there to. You give them a set of documents, they just build it. Nowadays, everything is done every day. It's like sites are a think tank. How do we do this planter box, or how do we do the detail between planter box and the parapet wall? This is so what that created the lack of detailing, the lack of proper drawings have created a black hole in the architectural industry where the people who used to do detail, the people who used to focus on detail and focus on sections of the buildings and the importance of understanding levels, natural levels, finished levels, roof level, everything, like material connection. How do you finish one material against another? A specification. How do you specify things? So in the last 20 years, these focused, if you like, designers or draftspeople or architects have gone, and there's very, very few of them. So now the whole industry is shaken. So if there's any effect on anybody, I think the consultants, the architects, engineers, and everything must be paid and must be well engaged on the basis that they're going to do all this. Not just do a little bit and then leave it to somebody else to do.
It now has to be done, doesn't it?
It has to be done.
It has to be done. So it's probably a positive for the consultants industry in general, and from a business point of view. Is that making projects, I suppose there's extra costs, so ultimately that comes back to the developer, but it's just a necessity that is required to get to the level that the industry needs to be.
You can't submit any more drawings that are not construction documentation, as in complete documentation. So you can't submit them.
Yeah.
And you need to and let's assume you're right, and it is an extra cost for the consultants initially. Yeah. Let's say the architect now can and should charge 2-3 times more than what they used to.
Yep.
In the wrong era.
Yep.
Yeah, you called it the new era. It's called it the wrong era.
Yeah.
And the engineer must, instead of inspecting a site for 1 hour and having a quick look, he has to go there and spend a bit of time checking more carefully on everything. And if there's anything wrong, he has to say this is wrong and stop the pour, not let it go because he wants the next job from that builder or developer.
Yes.
Look, I understand we're all business people, and you're going to mix things, but there must be a line there that you can't go over.
Yeah.
But going back to what you said about the extra cost, I think it's not if you look at the whole picture.
Yes.
If you look at the fact the builder is going to be responsible for this building for 10 years.
Yep. So in the scheme of things, it's just get it right up front and then less cost at the back.
Exactly. It's or nil. Yeah. I'm for nil cost at the back.
In anything, isn't it?
It's the same if you. And then I must insist the builders, developers who are doing the right thing anyway.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It didn't affect anything of what they've done. Yeah. It shouldn't. And there's so many of them, but unfortunately, the commissioner and his office are working to make sure that all the others are educated.
Yeah.
And back into the fold, if you like, and in doing the right thing.
It's the same as really anything in life, isn't it? Just do it properly from the beginning.
Yes.
And then everything, later on will be much easier.
Well, I mean, it's a change, and a friend of mine mentioned a nice saying, the importance of being part of the change instead of being a result of it. So let's all become part of it. Let's all assist. Let's all do the right thing.
Absolutely.
Let's all negotiate. Let's all
it's not going away.
It's not going away. Be part of it. Make it better.
Absolutely.
If there's any aspects of the industry that you think can be better doing X, present it.
That's everyone's
don't sleep on.
job in good industry, isn't it? It's just good best practice. Is just be part of positive change. One quick question, I think we are unfortunately running out of time. There's much more to chat about. The lack of materials. A lot of people talking about that in the construction industry.
Yes.
What's the reason behind that? Do you see?
Every industry, including construction industry, the vehicle industry, other industries are suffering because of many. I'm not an expert in the reason behind it, but COVID, around the world has created major issues for. I was talking to a friend yesterday, and he used to import, say, a container of tires from China for $3,000. The container. The cost of the container. The cost of now it's $15,000.
Yeah, and probably takes longer.
And it takes much, much longer. So I'm assuming this is the same thing for every other aspect of the industry of construction, like steel. Steel have gone up to, we're talking $2,000 a ton for reinforced. Many people are saying, look, eventually this will settle back. Or I would say it may. Again, I'm not an expert in that regard, but I highly recommend for anybody who's doing a feasibility today, assume the worst. Don't just go in, look, I'm going to do my feasibility based on the steel going back to $1,200 a ton. So this is the only thing I can advise on. And hopefully we'll leave it to the bigger to the bigger authorities to try and realize that this is a problem across all industries, and how as a country, as a continent, as business, if you like, as a world, how to deal with that. As a world,
It's like the car industry at the moment is, you can't buy a car.
You can't buy a car, for example. It's amazing.
Okay, final question for you, to a man, an entrepreneur, a successful businessman, a man of industry of probably 40 years. If there was a piece of advice that you could give your younger self, in your younger self, so your early school, 10, 11, 12, looking back on yourself and what you've learnt in the success of life to date, what would you say to yourself looking back? Any pieces of sort of advice of to do or not to do?
Be a people's person. That's very, very important, because
Yes.
everything we do is relationships.
Yes.
And building relationships. Whether you're going to do quantity surveying or project management,
Yeah.
or you're going to become an actor or become an architect,
Yeah.
the importance of building relationships and being a people's person is elemental in everything anybody can do.
Brilliant.
There's nothing that replaces you reaching out and understanding the other person and learning how to get to them,
Yep.
and learning how to care for these people, and
Yeah.
learning how to build relationships, and learning how to keep building it forever.
That's
Because that's the
beautiful.
basis of everything.
That is.
I think that's the only thing. Because I was a bit of a reserved,
Uh-huh.
a teenager, and
Yes.
and
Right.
yeah, it
Awesome.
was
That's beautiful. That's a great way to end. Thank you very much for your time.
appreciate it. Thank you.
And
Thanks for
look
having me.
forward to. It's my pleasure. And maybe there's another one in a while, an update on how
Absolutely.
the construction industry is going. Thanks again, and chat to you very soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.